So the issue that I have, Jim, isn't that the agency. I mean, my issue with the agency is I understand what the politics are, and I understand that the agency gets a call from somebody saying that here's a big dog and you got to throw him a bone. And I'm not here to tell you that it didn't happen when I was director. It didn't happen as much. And I'm not here to tell you that if I were director now, I could do it better. I don't think I could do it better. I think the politics are nastier now than they used to be. But the rationale sheet is another matter. When I don't follow the public notices as well as I should. So my first notice that there was a new draft out came from Warren. Warren said, "Here's the new draft and here's the rationale." Well, I said, "You know what? I'm kind of in a hurry, so I'll just read the rationale and see if there's anything in the draft that I need to be paying attention to." And when I read the rationale, there was no reference to this. And then I was talking to somebody else and they said, "You know what? I think they may have changed the inspection frequency to once a week." I said, "No, they didn't do that because I read the rationale and it would have been in there." So that, Jim, I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to say to whoever I need to say it to, that you got to start over. Now, it may be that there's so many comments will come in that you had essentially to start over anyway. It makes no difference. But that rationale should never have gone out of that agency the way it is. And I'd invite you to take a counterpoint. But
no, I won't.
Listen, I'll tell this whole group that nobody, no, not me, not anybody else on the call cares about clean water more than Jonathan Burr. And I don't. There's nothing I say today that makes me think. You know, the first time I met, I know David Sawyers from when we were colleagues at TNSA. The first time I saw him, he said, "The water's going to be better during my term of office than it was before." I don't believe for a minute that he would roll that back. I know Greg Young. I know Jenny Dodd. I know her husband, her kids. I don't believe for a minute any of these people are malintended. They're just stuck.
I have a direct question.
They're not in a position where they can get away with arguing. We are.
And we'll put together a retort / comments that'll go in, and this will all go in process. There's a process for this. I have a direct question. The EPA's got to sign off on our permit somehow, right? Right. At the end of this, I don't fully understand the process. I wasn't in the central office, excuse me. But essentially, EPA has to sign off on this, and they come in and they look. Any general permit. Right, and they look for specific things, and I want to ask directly about backsliding, right? All this permit language I read everywhere. No backsliding, right? And so would the approve of the permit as it is today with the quote unquote core rationale or whatever we're assigning that adjective, and the backsliding, is that even? Or would they stop full tilt for any perceived backsliding?
We don't know yet, Jason. I mean, the backsliding prohibition is in state law and rules. Even if EPA weren't there, there's a provision in the permit rule that says you can't issue a permit that's less protective than the one before, unless there are certain circumstances like new information or there's a list of certain, you can find it yourself in TNX permit rule. Now, what I suspect though, just following the information that we've gotten from a speaker not to be named, TNEC rules can be changed by the same outfit that that's the thing. You can only enforce the law and rules that you have, and people that the same people that last year were saying that TDEC should not have authority to regulate sewage disposal from drip irrigation systems. If you watched the committee discussion on whether TDEC should be allowed to to regulate sewage disposal, you'll see that there were a few minutes of discussion. There was hardly anything true was said, at the end of which there was a nearly unanimous vote to strip TDEC of authority to regulate sewage disposal because it's inconvenient for that particular special interest group. That special interest group deserves representation, and they deserve to make a play for the way that they want the rules to read. The problem is that in Tennessee, the representative of the public is the agency, and then a few public spirited advocates or underemployed geriatrics to follow up on it. And in Tennessee, money talks, and that's the world that we're in. And so I see names on here I see names over on this view list that are water heroes, and every one of you is doing. Tennessee Waters owe you a lot, and the same with Jonathan. I mean, Jonathan's on my short list of Tennessee water heroes. I gave him some of my TDEC shirts when I was fired. he may be wearing one now.
Yeah, some of them even fit. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think I think all of us agree with you. I think we need to keep moving through this.
Okay.
What we need to figure out is there a way that we can get the information out to even more people so that they will have time to comment?
Well, that's exactly
July
right.
8th. One thing I thought of, I don't know if Tim has the ability, but I got complaints from people who are level 1 certified saying, well, they didn't even get an email or anything saying that this had changed, and they're on the certification list, right? So Tim, feel free to chat. I know you're chatting. I'm not sure you can, sometimes your mic doesn't work, but some people would ask me, could we get it sent out to all the people who were like level 1 or an email list? I don't have that email list. Charlene sent it out to all of our TNSA membership and all the people who are on all of our listservs. But that doesn't typically go to all of the contractors in the area. It may not necessarily go to the erosion control people because in our area, they're not TNSA members. So I don't know if there's a way to get some of this information out to other people. That's something we can discuss, I guess, at the end, or if y'all have some information about that, or if other people have a group email list that we could get this to. The idea is that we want to walk through this. We want to understand the comments. We would like to send back as a united front. We want individuals to also send their comments to TDEC. The more comments they get, the better it's going to be for our justifications and our comments of our opposition to some of these changes. And then how do we get more people to know about it? Because like we said, it almost could have went under the curtain if I wouldn't have read that email from Charlene right before our board meeting. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? So I started reading through. I was like, we got to look at this. And then Tim Gangler had already looked at it and said, yeah, you guys need to look at it closely. So any help we can get getting this information out would be great.
Sheila, I'd like to make 2 more points and then just add an appendix to what you just said. It's one thing for TNSA members to write TDEC and say, here's what ought to happen. TNSA members have something that water advocates don't have, and that is they've got a direct line to their legislative delegations. That is how that bill that would have credited stormwater control against paying fees in stormwater utilities. That's how TNSA was able to deal with that, not by writing TDEC about it, not by writing the legislators, but by working with their legislative delegations and say, I don't care whether you're Republican, Independent, Democrat. Here's what we need. Now, let me make last two points that are up on my screen here.
Hi.
This is Shauna. She's going to be helping us part-time.
Okay.
Up front and around here and all that stuff.
Okay.
So
Oh, I'm hearing somebody else.
Nice to meet you.
Somebody else is calling.
Yeah.
Kathy, mute Kathy.
Okay, I'll just show this last point I made up here. Under the way that the permit has been, that the inspection rules or the inspection permit is drafted, there could be as much as 11 days between inspections. It's unlikely, but there could be, and it would be compliant with the way the thing's written. And then at the bottom, I think you can see my note that says, here are the things, here's what was in that rationale document. There are 5 changes. The typos, clarifications, and structural. This was number 1. Number 2 was national parks are present. Our outstanding national resource waters only exist in the national parks, the OBID, and Reelfoot. So we hardly have any outstanding national resource waters, but there was a prohibition against just this general permit authorizing discharges that would drain to an outstanding national resource water. So national parks would have had to go through an individual permit process to be covered. So that change was big enough to make it in the rationale sheet. The third change just says, the permit that was written says MS4's an MS4 ordinance, an operator has to comply with the MS4 ordinance or it's a violation of this permit. Most states do that. Tennessee had done that. It's probably true that the federal government doesn't require it. And so somebody found it and rolled it back. So, and the language says MS4s are expected to enforce their own ordinances. One of the big campaigns that TNSA has been on is, look here, TDEC, here's how you can be a better partner for us. And that change doesn't go in that direction. Item 4 was on electronic notices of intent and reporting. That's all good. And then that item 5 says will allow sites to have operators who choose to have more than 50 acres disturbed at any one time. And it goes and it says, and if you do, here's some beyond the basic requirements. And as we've already gone over, those requirements are presently applied to much more broadly. And that's it for the rationale. There is nothing else in the rationale on any of these other changes that we've discussed. The rationale is silent. And so that's why what I think is that, Jason, you mentioned that EPA oversight, at least on process, I think EPA will step in and say, you got to start over. Now, whether EPA will let them go from 2 to 1 and anti-backsliding is something that we'll find out. Okay, I'm quiet now, Sheila.
I'm sorry, would you think the backsliding would also be the lack of the QASA requirements from 10 acres up to the 50? Well,
if an argument can be made that it's less protective than the existing permit, then yes, for every single thing in the permit, that's anything that is less protective than what's in the 2016 permit is backsliding. Now, whether it's permissible, whether there are areas that it's allowed, really, I haven't done that much digging. I know on the inspection, I know on the site assessment, both of those are to me impermissible backsliding. But the damn thing is, just as our unidentified speaker said, the rules on what's permissible can get changed.
Because those were board rules that say that.
So we want to win this argument on what's good for Tennessee, not on what the law says, because what the law says can be changed. What's good for Tennessee can't be changed. I mean, for those that followed it, the 10H2O report, the 10H2O plan said public policy. I mean, it's a wonderful document. It says the policy needs to be based on good thinking. And so TDEC might come out with a rationale that says we decided to do this because we can. That's not good thinking. They need to say, here's how it's consistent with our mission to inspect sites less often than we are now in an industry where we have some very good actors, but we have had certainly 50% of construction sites in Tennessee are in significant non-compliance at any time. The highest fraction of non-compliance of any regulated source.
Oh, where exactly did the number 3, where was it in the permit? The part about the MS4s are expected to enforce their own ordinances. Do you know exactly where that was? What section that's in?
It's in the rationale.
But what section of the?
Yeah.
The rationale, I'm looking at it right here. The rationale just says that it no longer says you must submit blah, blah, blah to your local MS4. They've simply removed that. The MS4 is in charge of getting its own stuff handled, and so our state.
It's under where the NOI, when the NOI has to be submitted.
Uh-oh, Amber Alert.
And so, you know, what I think where it's getting at is it's the difference between the current permit, the 16 to 21 permit or whatever, that says when you apply, you will apply to the MS4 also. And now they're just specifically removing that language because you MS4s are on your own, I guess. I don't really understand that. It's slightly unnecessary, but I get it.
Sheila, I don't have my rationale sheet showing, but there's some place in the rationale sheet that uses are expected to enforce, and those words in that order.
Yeah, it's section 5.3 of the rationale
Okay.
on R4, page R4.
Okay. I'll go back and look at that. Let's see.
So you ready for me to share screen?
Yeah, I'll
I'm
push.
not sure how to do this.
Tim, since you can talk, do you think you would, do y'all have any way to get some of this information out to the erosion control inspectors or the contractors?
Say that again.
I don't have an
You guys
email.
have like a mass email thing where you can send out some of this information to the erosion control inspectors?
Yeah.
On certification people, because they had asked me, why didn't they get something? And like, you're the only people I know that would have that data.
I mean, we have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Would it be too much trouble?
No.
No. Okay. I think, okay. I'll get with you. I'll send you something. Maybe we can shoot just some highlights of the rationale sheet and say, hey, you guys might be interested in the new draft language, just to get it to more people. And that the comments, it's super fast. I mean, having the comments back by July 8th it's gonna be hard for me to do, but we'll get it done.
Over holiday.
Head it to the list. Okay, Tom, would you like to go ahead? So far, everyone has just shared their own screen. Paul did a side-by-side. I just did the markup of the old with the new in it. You can do it however you would like.
Okay. Do y'all see part 6 on your screen?
And you can introduce yourself too and let them know who you are.
Okay, cool. So my name's Tom Lawrence. I'm, I guess, the treasurer for TNSA. I've worked on erosion prevention, sediment control for more years than probably some of you guys are old. But, you know, basically I've had probably similar experiences to most of the other presenters on here with doing inspections, doing design, you know, negotiating to try to get stuff corrected. So I agreed to help with part of the permit. I'm really kind of in the wind down part of the permit, but there were a couple things that really, as I went through it, that were changes I thought were important. So I'll go through this kind of fast so we have more time for discussion. But if anybody feels like I'm skimming through something that you are like, hey, we really need to look at that, let me know. So the red line for this section wasn't useful because the part 6 has changed names to a different part 6. So the red line went through the old part 6 and basically everything was different and everything was new. So what I did is I actually took the old permit and I read it and compared sections, and I tried to be as close as I could to not miss something, but I could have missed something. What I noticed when I was looking at the rationale, I thought it was interesting that Paul brought it up because I thought I was the only person that read the rationale. So I actually brought it up and I was like, well, let me read the rationale and see how it goes. And it came up and it was 7 pages. I was like, oh, I got the wrong document. So I kept looking for a different document. I was like, my page is wrong. And I realized it's at 7 pages. Usually the rationale is bigger than the permit. So, so I did, I also, the rationale seems to be missing some stuff. So, as we go through here, I may refer to that a couple times. So But then I was going to say the funniest thing, I felt like the proudest moment in the rationale was the fact that this permit was shorter. And I'm not sure whose metrics that is. Has nothing to do with anything technical. They're just really proud that this permit is shorter than the previous permit. So I don't know, I thought that was funny. So as you go through this, so basically 6.1 was about the same as the previous permit. It's a bit shorter. I didn't see anything that really super stood out to me about, hey, this is a lot worse. But I will say sometimes when they take out language, that's what you really need to focus on, like the thing about the MS4. So if I missed something, again, please point it out. Spills was about the same or the same. The water quality standards, I didn't see any significant changes in that, maybe because that's constricted by state law. There were some different wording, so we might need to be careful to look at the wording. The one thing I did see, it gets a bit more complicated here on B, C, D, and E, is on C, they added some clarification language about what objectionable color contrast is, which, to me, I didn't really see a problem with that. E is added. E is a new thing about the materials from the sediment control devices must be disposed of in a manner that prevents its entrance into pollution. I guess that's a thing that seemed like common sense, but I think that's a good thing to add. I actually thought that was a good addition. I always tell people you need to put it somewhere else on your site, but I could just imagine people thinking, oh, all this dirt's right by the stream. Let me push it in the stream. Okay, so when we get to the SWIP BMP requirements, there are a fair number of changes in here. The thing that really stood out for me, and y'all may already have mentioned it because I was on another meeting from 9 to about 9:45, is that they talk about the waters with unavailable parameters for siltation, but habitat alteration is obviously removed. Did y'all already talk about that? Okay. I mean, that's a big change, at least certainly in West Tennessee, and I think probably in other parts of the state too, because that eliminates a lot of the streams that are considered, that we have to do the extra design for the unavailable parameters. So to me, that was like a really important thing to kind of note, that habitat alteration was removed. Whether or not it should have been, I didn't look into that, but I mean, I always thought it was a good thing to have it in there. And the other thing that I thought was interesting in here is they removed the proximate clause. Y'all remember where they talk about waters being proximate to other waters and, how you judge if, because some streams are listed as unavailable, but then a downstream won't be evaluated or won't be listed as unavailable. And they've taken out the proximate language, which is always hard to enforce, but I always thought it was nice language to have in there for discussion. I kind of thought this permit, they were going to define proximate, but it looked like instead of defining proximate was removed. So anyway, I felt like the changes in 641A are pretty significant. If you decide to make comments, that might be one you want to focus on. On B, they removed sentences about chemical treatment. I think there's some chemical treatment discussion later in the permit. I think I saw that later, but it was no longer in this section. Chemical treatment being, like if you have clay colored waters to get out the clay color in the water. In C here, okay, so this is one again, it may be in a different section. I didn't get a chance to refer to a different section, but there was a paragraph in the old permit that talked about who can prepare the SWIP. And I think it was moved elsewhere because I thought I ran through it, but I could not find it. About, it has to be someone with experience of preparing SWIPs, and then with the criteria of PE, and I think CPESC maybe was in there. So anyway, that's gone now, and I don't, if anybody knows if that's elsewhere in the permit, but if not, and you think that's important, you may want to make a note that, there needs to be a criteria for who can prepare the SWIP. For E here, it was shortened.
Hang on, Tom. Hang on.
I'm sorry, what?
Hang on a second. Go back.
Okay.
So going back to C, for C,
okay,
that's requiring twice weekly inspections for waters with unavailable parameters. So that means you're going to have some sites that are only required to do a weekly inspection, and some sites that would be required to do twice weekly inspections. That's going to be a nightmare to keep track of. It should be consistent.
Yeah.
I don't know how everyone else is doing it, but Karina Bynum just sent out that awesome new web link for the construction. They've combined some sort of ArcGIS Esri website that's going to be the hydrologic determinations and your watersheds. And it's like, if you're in the pink, you're in an impaired waterway, right? And that's for these construction general permit things. I've been told that my inspectors in my area and SWIP review, you know, caseworkers or whatever you want to say, are going to that website. So that watershed, you're going to be doing, you know, the bigger buffer requirement or whatever we're talking about, the unavailable parameters for the construction general permit, right? And so I'm not finding that exact website linked in here yet. I think that would be paramount and for informational for your plans review people, right, in the MS4 program, and just to build off the nightmare of whether it's once a week or twice a week inspections based on your location and drainage watershed that somebody just chimed in with. I didn't catch who that was. It seems like you would want to put that on whatever land disturbance permit / notice of coverage that you're going to issue, because I mean, it seems like the MS4 might need to be a little more prescriptive going, you know, because you're going to have all these idiots out there going, but I do it once a week down the street here. I got to do it twice a week down the road here. What are you talking about? And so
you could even have a site where one side of it is discharging to a supporting stream and then the other side's impaired. So then what do? Half the site gets once a week, half the site gets twice a week.
Bravo, whoever just said that.
Doug, yeah.
Or not even twice a week, up to 10 days, the way Paul showed it. If you did it on Monday, you did it the following Friday, if it didn't rain. So you got one site doing twice weekly, and one of them may not have to do it but 10 days. Total confusion.
Tom, I'm so sorry you got past 641B a little faster than I wanted to chime in.
You got to chime in faster.
Sorry. You know, let's see, I'm looking at this equivalent intensity language, and I don't think that that's been in any of these permits yet. That kind of spooks me just reading it over first time, being an MS4, you know, or wearing
Yeah, that language was in the previous permit. I think it just wasn't really emphasized very much. We talked about it in class, but actually, I was like you. I didn't remember. It kind of seems to stand out more here, but it's actually in. I think it's 5.4.1. Let me see if I can find the exact spot. Yeah, because it kind of stands out more in this permit for some reason. I think because there's so many fewer words. Does anybody know exactly where it is?
Of the new one or the old one?
So in the old permit, it's in 5.4.1A, the same as what's in B here.
I'll go look it up. 5.4.
Yeah, they kind of split it in half, I think. And again, it's a lot shorter.
Okay. Thank you.
Because it's good to have pride in your work of making it shorter.
I like the 2,200 words shorter. That's how
words shorter. Oh, anything else?
Jeb
Jason,
Jeb said on the chat that the language is consistent on that part with the old.
Okay, cool. Okay, so he found it too.
Yeah. Right.
But it does seem to stand out more here because the other paragraph looks like a manifesto, and this one is just, 5 sentences. Okay. So I was going to continue on unless anybody has any questions about C or Ds. Like I said, stop me. I don't mean to be going fast, but I want to, try to respect people's time and get to everything. Okay, cool. I appreciate the conversations. So we did D. I just talked about that. Some stuff has been deleted. There's actually quite a few deletions out of here. They dropped C and D. Let me see what C and D were. I don't think it was critical. Oh, that's where they talk about the inspection. So it is critical, but they just dropped inspections completely out of this. And just about the inspection form. So I think they moved it somewhere else. It's critical, but I guess they wanted to take it out of this section, which is as long as it's in there somewhere. So I'm looking at E now. So E was shortened, and it's just kind of, I don't know that it's significantly different, but it is shortened. To me, it seemed to have the same gist of the previous one for design. Okay. And it's moved to a different section. So they've kind of redone all the numbers. This language, I don't know that anybody really used it before, but this was actually in the previous permit. It's just shortened a bit about the 3.5 to 4.9. Not to say it wasn't good. I just rarely saw anyone even.
That's actually changed. So the old permit, it was recommended, and in the new permit, it is required.
Okay. See, I missed a word. Okay, so now it's required. For an on-site tolling that will provide treatment for calculated runoff It's required. Okay.
Slightly
That's
interesting that the E language says sediment basin and the F language says sediment trap, as if they're just trying to, you know, garner language that goes to the size. Very interesting.
Okay.
Am I to assume an outfall structure is the difference there? Engineered outfall structure is the difference between those two things, maybe?
Are you looking at A to the other one?
E to F on this
Yeah,
new page 41, 641 E versus 6.41 F. Right? One
Oh, no, it
just
says common outfall. I'm not sure. I don't see the engineered structure.
a minimum sediment basin volume that will provide treatment for, and then F says a minimum sediment trap volume treatment for calculated runoff. That's just,
Well, one's to 5 acres and one's to 3.5 to 4.9. I think it's referring to two different things is the way I'm reading it.
Yeah, I think it follows the language in the erosion control manual, TDEC erosion control manual, but I could be wrong. But that's what we usually require, and we recommend the sediment traps. But I'm glad that now that these are going to be recommended or
It's
required.
actually required, yeah. So that-
Yeah, we've been doing them, but that's going to be good because they're smaller. You can't, when you got a really small site, you can't put the big sediment basins in, so they can rarely fit in the sediment traps too. So that's going to be good.
Cool. I expected there to be some changes on buffers, but I looked and the 60 foot's the same as what's in the 2016 construction general permit. All this language is basically the same, but shortened. I don't know if anybody noticed anything significantly different. The one thing I noticed was that there used to be an exemption for buffers not being required based on existing uses, which I guess means if somebody was already using the buffer. And they took that out. I don't know if they took it out because it's not something they could enforce or why they took it out. But I just noticed that was missing. It was in the old permit, it was 5.4.2.1 wasn't moved. And I didn't know if it just wasn't important or
If you will scroll back up slightly. What was taken out was replaced by the last sentence in the first paragraph, which says all other buffer zone requirements as stated in 4.1.2 still apply. So in the old permit, everything that was in what is now 4.1.2 about buffer zones that weren't unavailable parameters and weren't ETWs was recapitulated here for a couple of pages worth.
Yeah.
And now all the redundant language is removed and it's replaced by everything else about buffers still apply here as well as they do in 4.1.2. So that's where you lost the wording you're looking for.
helps you get to that 2,200 less words.
Gotta get to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of the 2,200 words were almost all redundant language that was repeated throughout the permit.
And twice weekly inspections. Right. Okay. So part 7 is usually the part that everybody scans over, nobody reads. And actually, as I was reading through it, I was like, wow, there's actually some important stuff that I think would be important to us for the future of the permit. I mean, if you write part 7, but it's usually the part by the time people get there, they're just like trying to figure, is there anything else I need to do? So one thing that was interesting here, it talked about making the SWIP and copy of the permit accessible to the division. The previous permit also said the public, and I find that to be significant. Maybe they felt like they couldn't do that due to access requirements, but I think taking the public out is an interesting thing. It always points out, people's, I guess, motivations. Otherwise, I felt like this paragraph was the same except for taking out the word public. The public is mentioned down here about being able to see the being able to see the information about the people building it. So I guess someone could still contact somebody. So the public actually is still down here. But again, to be able to review it, maybe, be honest, I don't know that it's a big change because I feel like with the public being down here, as soon as you can find the site number, you can find everything online. Just knowing in reality, a lot of people in the public aren't going to do that because, at least with the data viewer, I have to take everybody through it the first couple of times until they can find something. I think it's great. So there's slight changes through here. I didn't see anything that really stood out to me. Unless anybody else saw anything. This paragraph was about the same. These were the same except C was added. I'm not really sure really what it adds to the whole thing, but for some reason this was added. And the thing regarding the QASA, the site assessment was taken out. That used to be here, and then the inspections was taken out of here. So it used to be here as far as providing information. It just says all required inspection reports, but the QASA, and I guess that's because it's been taken out. Electronic submissions of documents was expanded quite a bit. I mean, I personally, my comment has been for electronic submissions that they should make a way where everything can be posted online. I still don't see that in here. That's going to be my comment, is that, you know, if a site can post their SWIP and their inspection reports to where it's viewable by the public, and maybe they don't want to, but as an option, then they don't have to keep the hard copies on the site. But you know, we'll see. I don't know if that's a good change or not, but that was going to be my suggestion. So I went ahead and did part 8 and 9. I think we can get through these pretty quickly. These are all basically the same. I always thought this was 25,000, but I looked in the old permit and it was 10,000 in the old permit too. So I'm not really sure where that number came from. I'm sure there's a logic behind it. Back here in 8.2, basically the other things I have as being the same. Of course, I could have missed a word there, but 8.2 was changed a bit. There's actually less time for the transition to the new permit. I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. In the past, it was a year to transition to the new permit. And now it's 3 months. So I don't know does anybody have any information about that, why that is? I just didn't know why that would be that change. Okay. If anybody thinks about an answer, let me know. So this was the same. Duty to mitigate was the same that I could see. Provided that was the same. 8.5, 0.6, and 0.7 were all the same that I saw. The signature requirements, actually, this one was the same. I was kind of read through, and at first, to me, it sounded different than what's been done, but I compared the language, and it was the same. I think y'all probably already talked about signatories quite a bit in the past, in other parts of the permit. So they're going through this language I compared all seem to be about the same. I know that getting the proper signatures is way harder than, I don't know if TDEC understands, but they probably understand too. But certainly if you're an MS4, almost, I mean, if you want to ding somebody on something, just ask to see their signatures, who signed what, and it's not gonna be right. So, you know, I think it's important to emphasize who's supposed to sign what, and that is supposed to be signed. I read through this language. To me, again, I was scanning quickly. All this seemed to be the same as in the previous permit, whether that's good or bad. I actually compared these word for word because I thought they had changed the certification language, but I didn't see a word that was different in any of the certification languages. There was a section here about penalty for falsification of reports, 7.8 in the old permit, and that's just gone. And I don't know if that was moved to somewhere else. Maybe that was redundant language too. I don't really know why that was gone. You know, maybe it's understood, but there used to be a section here called penalties for falsifications of reports, and that's gone. The oil has ability, property rights, those are the same. In the individual permit section, there are some changes. I didn't really see anything that really stood out to me, and maybe I don't know if you guys found things in the past when you were going over, but you know, basically it says there's all sorts of reasons they may have to have individual permits. But there was some changes in the language. If for some reason that seems like an important section to you.
I can tell you. Let me butt in there for just a second on what is different, and the only thing that is different is the listing of criteria for the division to require an individual MPS may include, but are certainly not limited to, the following. And I'm very interested on comments on whether making a list like that is helpful or paints us in a corner, or if you think it's better not to say anything. I could argue it either way. So we're throwing it out there for consideration. What would you make it stronger? What would you add to it? If the 50 acre thing if it were to end up being removed as a criteria to require an individual permit, then what does constitute the need for an individual permit? So trying to put some boundaries around it that would explain to somebody, here's why the commissioner thinks one might be required, seemed to be called for. but I could argue it either way. So I'm interested in feedback on that.
And if anybody wants to, the section, the original and the existing permit is 7.12.1, if you want to compare that with this section. In my mind, it didn't seem as important as a lot of the other issues, but it is good to comment. It is changed. So let's see, where am I at now? 8.11.2. To me, this seemed the same. General permit termination, that actually was the same text that as far as I could see. Other improper operation were the same text. Oh, except on this page, this text is different, but as I read the original, I think the original maybe had typos in it. I think this is just to fix typos, or base language copied from another permit. So I didn't see anything in here that stood out to me as being changed in a worse or better direction. It is different language in case you do compare. Inspection and entry were the same, and permit actions. That all seemed the same to me. Part 9, this is like the marathon at the end of the class, right? So in this first paragraph, there was some language changed. The NOT language is actually the same as in the previous one. I'm not sure it's being done, but actually it's the same language. This part, unless covered, the permittee specific request to maintain coverage, that is added. I'm not really sure why that was added. I mean, I guess maybe just to fill up a loophole, but actually is new in this permit. That's not new permit if it matters to you. And there's another sentence added at the top here. Stabilization is recommended. This one, primary permittees who abandon the site and fail to submit an NOT will be in violation of this permit. I didn't realize that was added, but I have that noted. Maybe that was added or not. Anyway, so there's a little bit of change in here. I think the most significant thing is this, unless the permittee specifically requests to maintain coverage. But maybe somebody had, maybe like a housing development that went dormant for 6 years and they want to keep their coverage, but they, they haven't been paying their fee. I don't know how that would really come up in real life. This line V was added in this section. Again, it's the section about earth disturbing activities. I don't see any issues with that, but that line was added. 9.1.2, the NOT review. This I thought was really weird. This is kind of like unbacksliding. It says operators may be liable for discharges that occur from the site after termination. I'm not even sure if that's something they could do or not. If once the permit is terminated, if the operators could still be liable for discharge. So that, to me, that's kind of a weird phrase to have in there. I'm not really sure. If I was an operator, I'd be really nervous about, like, it's basically pushing you on the line forever. So they added the time. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll chime in on that.
Okay.
That's a true statement, whether it's in this permit or not.
Okay.
I mean, they're just like I would be liable for a discharge from my property to state waters. It's against the law in Tennessee to cause a condition of pollution or to pollute waters without a permit.
I guess I was thinking of it more as like I'm a home builder. I build my houses. I sell the house to me. I would think the operator of the permit was the home builder, but the home builder sold the property and has no control over it. That was the way I read it.
The word operator may need some help in that sentence.
Okay.
But whoever the discharger is that has a discharge is responsible for it in Tennessee unless they're agriculture.
Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe that's what it means, or maybe it doesn't even need to be stated. Anyway, that sentence was added. This time frame down here, 30 days, was added. I didn't realize that. I thought there was a time frame in the old permit, but I could not find the time frame in the old permit. So they have 30 days, and I guess it's the same time, 30 days. If they don't respond, it's considered terminated. Except that they then say the division has to change it to somewhere else, to not active on their database. So if they're not responding, I don't know if they would change it to not active. But I guess it was to give a time frame for a response. 30 days is actually really quick to me to respond to NOT for TDEC with so much other stuff they have going on. But that time frame is being added. Then this paragraph I saw as being the same. This paragraph, the secondary permittees. I checked this language. I compared it, and as far as I could see, it was exactly the same. where to submit the NOT. I actually went through the definitions, and we're just going to hit a couple of these real quick. AREP was added. I'll scroll through these. Degradation was added as a definition. De minimis was added as a definition, which I was surprised because I thought that was in the previous one. They deleted, okay, that's not important, never mind. A couple of definitions were deleted, and I'll try to point out the ones that mattered. That go too far. Discharge was added. They deleted the definition of discharge of stormwater associated with construction, and maybe because that's really a phrase and not a definition, but that actually was deleted as a definition, if that matters to you. So level right here, there used to be a definition for what an inspector was. I'm not really sure why they took out what an inspector was. Maybe just say it's maybe now they say it's a person who has level 1, and they've added level 1 and level 2. I kind of think it'd be nice to define what an inspector is in here. And there used to be, it's just taken out now, but they did add level 1, level 2, which is good. Linear project was about the same text. I feel like it was changed a little bit. Here, after MS4 and before operator, they had defined NOI and NOT, and they took that out. I'm not really sure why they took it out. It seems like a non-controversial definition that would help people, but maybe it was just moved to acronyms. This is kind of funny because they added the word pollutant in it, and I just had a discussion with somebody the other day. I'm not sure if any of you guys are on the call about the fact that, you know, certainly when I was in MS4, we never used the word pollutant because it kind of is a hot button issue for people. And we're even saying, well, TDEC doesn't really use the word pollutant either, but apparently I guess they do because they've added the word pollutant into this permit, which I think is odd because I've already said a parameter, not a pollutant. So anyway, for whatever, and I'm not sure that's even the right definition of how I would think of a pollutant. But that is added. They added the word pollutant.
Hey, Tom, we got about 10 minutes for comments. Do you?
Oh, okay. Wait, this is done. I was just saying the rest of the
Okay.
definitions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just some, a few definitions were taken in and out. But we can wrap it up here. There's nothing major here.
Okay. How do y'all want to handle I mean, we got about 10 minutes. I'd like for, I guess, if people want to, I guess, respectfully unmute and kind of have comments or whatever, I think we could do that. Or if Charlene, you can see it or call on people. I can't really see everybody, so whatever y'all think.
And maybe somebody has a question, they could stick their hand up and Charlene could call their name. Do the hand raise thing at the bottom.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So I guess there have been there's some comments that are going in the comment that I do want to address. We do have a little bit of a concern that, you know, we didn't see any informational things go out about this. It was just a link and here you go. We didn't get any education or information from TDEC or any help. So I just kind of scrambled and put this together. I hope it's helpful to start these conversations and get people moving on making these comments. And if we can find some more ways to get the information out to more people, I think that'll be good. And we really think we should have had at least some kind of forewarning or educational or a Zoom call or something to let us know this was occurring and what we needed to do to get people on the ground. Oh, I can see some hands. Let's see. I've got Dawn, go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if TDEC would like to do a TNSA call real quick. We don't have a short time to explain some of these things.
You mean at a later date or?
Well, hopefully as soon before we do any comments, maybe that, I guess that would be too quick though.
What? I guess Jeb, does TDEC have any, are they planning to do any kind of informational calls or meetings or anything before the comments are due back? Or is it just the public meeting on the date and we just got to get there?
We don't have any other plans, but if TNSA was to request some sort of meeting, I'm sure that they would accommodate you in some way.
Okay. Who should we send that to?
Jennifer Dodd and April Grippo.
Maybe Voyant.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so follow-up items for me. I'm going to get with Tim and we're going to send out some information about it to his list for, I guess, level 1, level 2, whoever he can easily shoot a distribution list out to for the permit.
Is that something where we would like to have that list, or are we asking him to provide information? I can see how the Tennessee Water Resource Center would want to avoid coming down on the side of anything, right? And
No. He would just send the link Charlene sent out initially. It just said, here's where the draft permit is located. So, you know, just FYI, just so you're aware of this.
But a lot of people already got that. And to be blunt, it's 2 or 3 weeks later. And I'm just realizing that half of a job site will be once a week and half the job site will be twice a week. And so, not to be pompous.
You got that. Nobody.
I pay attention to this stuff too much, right? And a lot of the people that are on that email list don't pay as much of attention as I do. And so it just seems like, hey, here's that link. Have a nice day. Might not get the desired outcome.
But who did you get the information from? Charlene, right?
No, I did not get information, or excuse me, I'm sure one of her emails is in my list, but at that point I just got the public comment, you know, I'm on the public comment for public hearings for stuff. And so you just got the link. And
we may could put something in there like, hey, there's some significant changes on inspection frequencies,
QASA requirements, and other fundamental components that you were relying on
have changed. Yeah.
And so here's the link for more information, right? And it's a little more hands-off-ish and informational.
Yeah, I think so. And then we can request a informational meeting with TDEC. Charlene, how do you want me to compile comments? Do you want me to just have them email me or you, and you can just forward me stuff? I know you're going to be out, so.
Yeah, I leave Tuesday. Well, actually, yeah, Tuesday. So,
and they need to go to somebody else if you're going to be gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will be back on the 8th, but that's the day they're all due. That may be a little late. So
I'll put my email in the chat and you guys can just send whatever to me. And I've got a little group that helped me put this stuff together. So I'll start compiling comments that I get and I'll send it out through them and just kind of do a little check of, hey, what, you know, is this what everybody is thinking? If you want, and then we can send those up. But I would encourage everybody to send your own individual comments. You know, don't just rely on the
more comments, the better.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it should be, you know, TNSA can send their own set of comments, but every individual should send them as well because TDEC has to respond to all of them.
And every one of your consultants needs to put forth something as well, right? Because the sector is being severely impacted as well.
So what you're saying, Tim, is have folks, as we have done in the past, right, is have them send comments to us and then also send their comments individually, the same ones, just to get the biggest impact. So I just want to make sure that everyone's clear about that fact. That's how we've done things in the past. So the more the merrier is what they always say.
Good. Okay.
And I just want to let everybody know that I recorded this and it will be posted, hopefully, if everything processes correctly when we are finished on our TNSA Talk page. So since this is such a hot topic, I will, and we don't really have any TNSA Talk scheduled at this time, I will just post it to the top of the page so it's easier to find for everyone. So I will share anything that we would like to as follow-up, Sheila, as well after this, is with all of our members and everyone, as well as the fact that this has been recorded. Okay, so I will share all of that with everybody. as a
Yeah, make
follow-up.
sure all the other members that didn't participate in this know that they can view this. I think it'd be very helpful.
Yes, I had a few emails and calls and text the past 2 days asking that question. So I'll make sure I'll have that on there and I'll send that out to everyone. And feel free when I send that email out to share that with anyone that you think needs it as well. Whether their tens of members or not are involved. So just anyone that it can be helpful to.
Do you want the markups sent out? Does anybody want that? Or do we want to just put that on the website somewhere? If they want to go look, get them, grab them, they can.
I'd like to see it available.
Okay.
Do we have somewhere we can post that? Or
Make sure that it's clear who did the markup.
yeah,
Not
Mr. Warren. So don't beat us up too bad. We didn't have a lot of time.
It'd be nice if we had like a file share.
I can just
site or
actually
something where we
add, I can
post
actually
things.
add the markups to the website.
Okay.
So I will add everything. So what I'll do is on that TNSA Talk page, just because it's already set up, I have a whole space at the top where we normally have registration. I'll put the video up there and I'll share all of the files that we have sent out and that you guys have sent me all on one little section. So it's already there and for everybody just to go to one spot. Does that sound good? And then I'll send out an email about a deadline. And Sheila, we can talk about this, but a deadline for comments and where to send them.
Yeah. Just send them to me as soon as you get them because I'll just start compiling them. If you send them all to me on the last day, then if I've got stuff going on, we're going to be in big trouble. So as soon as possible is better for me.
So in your email, do you want to mention that we're trying to set up a meeting for TDEC so they can try to attend that if they haven't really been involved so far? Or should we wait?
The only problem with that is Charlene's going to be out the 22nd. I don't know if, can you, would you just, I guess.
You can use Zoom. I
give me the Zoom
can,
number?
I can
Zoom
send you,
login?
I think, yeah, I can send you the information if you would like to do all that.
I can set up a Zoom one as well too. We have professional Zoom.
Okay. All right. I just need some help with that. We use Microsoft Teams, but everybody else seems to like the Zoom platform.
Well, you can use Teams. I mean, people can access that on a website that's easy as well. I've done that before. So
Yeah. I've got Teams as well. So Teams is better for most MS4s. That's what we use for the Urban Waters Report Card project is Teams.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. I got it 12 o'clock.
Okay.
anything
Right.
else, anybody?
Glad to see everyone. Bye.
All right.
Thanks, Sheila.